Welcome to the Colors Delight for Life. It's about life, where we share our experience, strength, and hope to help others so they have a better understanding. Thank you. And I have Anna here. I'm going to let her spend about a minute and introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for having me. So it's wonderful to be here with you. I loved your story of overcoming, and it really resonated with me, as we were just talking about. Everybody has a story, right? And even though the paths might be different, I think that everybody's way of overcoming is different as well. But getting to that journey of stepping back into your true self is one of those beautiful journeys. Even though it can be painful along the way, on the other side of it, it's quite beautiful to overcome all of that and then come out on the other side. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Welcome.
Getting right into the meat of things. Wonderful. Yes. I had a story I was going to share, and then I kind of thought twice about it, and that brought me to that question of fear of judgment, or fear of all the fears that we have. We're like, oh no, should I or shouldn't I share this? For me, growing up, we moved around a lot, and so that was something that really impacted me, particularly around that age of 10. We moved from Houston to New Jersey. And I think I went from this bubbly, happy kid who knew, everybody in the area and knew what was going on. And then was kind of thrust into this new cold environment, right? From hot Houston to New Jersey. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it was kind of a part of who I identified with, a person that, was always outside and climbing trees and doing all sorts of things. And then moving in the middle of winter New Jersey to kind of having to now feel like I needed to be indoors because the cold was just, too much. But the real thing is that I became like a shell of myself. I felt like I was being bullied. People would push me into lockers. They would make fun of me about facial hair, and I was very bold, and so I'd call the boys that I liked, and I would, tell them, hey, that's how I feel. And the next day, everybody would be laughing because they were all on the phone. So there was a lot of this kind of bullying that kind of happened at a young age, where I was, where I was a happy kid, and then all of a sudden, one simple move and everything kind of, I'd say that was about when things kind of started falling apart.
You said it's about you were falling apart. How long did that last, that you quote falling apart, as far as that was concerned, and then finally climbing out of it?
Well, if I can fight through the tears, then
that's okay. Tears are fine. Tears are healing.
I hadn't thought about that in a long time. That roller coaster ride lasted about 20 years. I think that was definitely one of the things that I hadn't thought about that in a long time. So, because that continued on. It wasn't like it was just, a year or two. We then moved to Asia 2 years after that. So we moved every 2 years, and, you pick yourself back up, you make new friends, get to learn a new environment. Wonderful. But kind of that being made fun of. Like I remember one incident where I was really clutching on to my friend's hand in 8th grade, and just dealing with really cruel words. The person was sitting about a foot or two away, and we were in the back of the classroom, and the person, the teachers, they weren't hearing what was happening. It was just at a low enough voice where no one could hear what was happening, but my friend heard. And so I was sitting there and I was like digging my nails into her hand, trying not to like run out of the classroom. Yeah. And that led to self-harm, drinking, all the, yeah, self-worth.
So looking at that, it really dug into your self-worth, it sounds like, and who you were as a person, going from carefree to feeling introverted, kind of feeling like you wanted to disappear, if I
Yeah,
could get that understanding of that.
sounds about
But
right.
but even though you said it lasted 20 years, could you get some sense of what you were like during your teenage years, if that's okay? If you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah. During the teenage years, I had many different friend groups, and I was very different in each one of those friend groups. And that, so I had my core friend group, and then I had some other extracurricular friend groups, and I had, I was in track and field and cross country, so I had those friend groups. And I think with each group, I realized I behaved very, like, if I look back, I know I behaved very differently in each group. Um, and, just kind of that adaptability. So when you asked me right away, what was I like as a teenager, like those years, confused, very confused, and I lonely. Like uh, I remember eating lunch in the stairwell, like up in the top of the building. Um, I remember a teacher catching me. They were going up to smoke a cigarette, but I was sitting there like eating my food as far away from everybody as I possibly could. And then a teacher walked. I was like, "Ah, caught." So yeah, no, it was very confusing. I felt very lonely, even though I had a boyfriend at the time and I had friends. I felt like I didn't identify with most people. Um,
It sounds like you felt isolated amongst yourself.
yeah.
And did any of your spirituality help you, or anything help you at all get through that in a particular way?
I didn't discover my spirituality until just recently. For me, it was, I just drowned myself in all of my bad habits. So
Okay.
there
Um,
was, yeah.
Now that we're coming out of into your 20s, you were saying that you got involved with different addictions and different things. Do you mind sharing that with our audience so that they can have some understanding, what that's about, and how you can learn to deal with it?
Mm-hmm. So for me, it started in my teens. That was kind of, what the teenagers did. I'm sure in America as well, but I was off in Singapore, and it was just, it started out as, I didn't enjoy it, like I didn't understand why we were doing these things. And I had friends that were doing, they were huffing what are they called? Those aerosol sprays, like lemons. I'm like, what are you guys doing? I didn't really identify with it. But later, as the depression got worse, that's when I really started. It was, weekends, and it would just be really deep binge drinking. And when I went off to college, that didn't get any better. And then through the 20s, I lived in China, and it was just so accessible. And it wasn't like in the States where you had to drive back home. It was, you could walk home, or you could, take a taxi home. It was a very different life in that way. You didn't have to worry about, getting, a DUI or anything like that. Not that that's an excuse to drink as much as I did, but I was like, oh, it's just so easy. And yeah, so there was a lot of that, and I didn't, again, the loneliness followed throughout. I was actually studying my university degree in China I was the only foreigner in a group of about 500 Chinese students, so that was also lonely. And so that, even though I had, friends, it was still lonely, isolating. And so, yeah, the drinking definitely continued. And it wasn't until really mid 30s, late mid 30s, like 36, 37, where I realized, or my friend basically was like, listen, Anna, this has to stop. Because I was sitting at the pool and with a group of friends, but I was like, how do you guys have your life all together? We all work together. So we had great jobs at an international school. It's not like I was living in a box somewhere. I had a great job. And I was like, how do you guys all have it together? And you're so, everything is great. And here I am, like a broken shell of a human being. And my friend was like, okay, listen, you've got to go to this seminar. So I was like, all right, I'll go to the seminar. So I went to the seminar, and that's where I realized those beliefs that I'd put in, like I need alcohol for people to like me. I need alcohol to be myself. I need alcohol to be that fun person I was as a kid. Yeah. And once I was able to remove a lot of those, open my eyes to those beliefs I had about myself, that's when I was able to quit everything. Drinking, smoking, I was on self-medicating with Valium. Like it was, but it all stopped. I stopped the McDonald's. I was, because you get hungover, you're going to order the entire McDonald's menu. And so within a few short months, I was able to eliminate all of that when I realized, oh, those beliefs about myself, that's what was keeping
I definitely can understand about the depression. I deal with a bipolar disorder, PTSD, and an anxiety disorder. And at one time, I was 494 pounds. I lost 360 pounds. So, as far as beliefs and negative beliefs about myself, I've been down that road. Just to give you an understanding that, there's a lot more to my story than that. And I was abused sexually, mentally, and physically as a child. And I had a lot of negative beliefs about myself. And up until 16 years ago, I was morbidly obese. Yeah. But then when, like you were saying, when you finally discover, who you are and realize that, there's more to me than this. And now you see what I am at 56 years old. Yeah. And I do have a life. It's not always perfect, but you know what? That's okay. Right. Right. So I hope that's helpful for you as far as having somebody who understands where you've been. And maybe not in the same situation, but some of the similar things. So I just thought I do care. I do care about people a lot. And I do care about your story and what you've had to say. As you progressed up into your 30s and you started clearing away some of the wreckage of your past, and you started, is that when your spirituality and your mind, body, soul started connecting as far as that's concerned? Would you like to talk about that for our audience?
That really was because, I was fighting it for so long, right? I didn't really have that kind of spiritual upbringing. And so I wasn't surrounded by, I didn't choose to surround myself with people who had that kind of, life. I remember sitting in, the ice cold Beijing University classroom with like 500 other people. There were a few Korean students as well. And they would sit and they would read the Bible during class, because most of us, when you're sitting through a 4-hour lecture in your third language, you're not going to be able to pick up everything. And so I'd sit around and I'd observe people. And that was one thing that I remember striking me to the core, is that they were, sitting there reading their Bible. And I remember thinking, I don't have that. That I don't have that kind of guidance. I don't have that, that way home. But that was, early 20s. So come around to mid 30s, late 30s, after that seminar, that's when I had my first deep spiritual awakening, if you will. I went through my entire life and went through all the things that had happened and all the beliefs that I'd created. And I just kind of, banished them one by one. I was like, nope, I don't choose you anymore. And at the end of that, I actually, I'm going to say I heard a voice that was very different from my negative mind chatter. My negative mind chatter, would result in deep spirals and, all of those habits coming to surface. But this voice just said, be gentle. And I was like, oh, that's an option. and I was like, oh, okay, beautiful. And not that I continued to be gentle, but for those few minutes, I felt really deeply connected to something that, this greater oneness that I'd never felt before. And over the years, as I started to, release all those habits, I was open to more things. I was open to learning about more the spiritual side. So I started meditating. I started, I never even did yoga, even though my mom always has. And I was like, oh, I'll do some yoga. So I was just kind of gradually moving into more self-care, which was also, which led me down this road where I now easily connect with, a higher power, the universe. And that's been something that is really, especially over the last year, that's been something really prevalent. And it's something that, you wonder, oh, how life would have been different if I'd just known. But at the same time, I know it happened for a reason, It's like, okay, and now you're here. Hello, wake up. And so I'm very grateful for that. Yeah.
It's kind of like the what if, what if was this and what if it was that? I ask that of myself all the time, like when I have an anxiety attack, why do I still have to have this, even though my life is cleared up? Financially, I'm doing well, and in a lot of ways, and if you were to look at anything as far as success, I have it, but I like serving in my church. I love being a pastoral counselor, pastoral counselor, and helping people. And that's part of what, there's more to life than money. There's purpose and fulfillment and patience and happiness. I like to say there's more to happiness. You got to have joy. Joy is lasting. Happiness is transitory. And when you have that joy in your life, you have a sense of really, oh, life is worth living. I can make my own choices, and nobody has to make the choices for me. But one thing I have found is I let my gut be my guide, which I call God. And I call God good, orderly direction. And I call it ego, easing God out. And I like to keep my ego where it belongs, not easing God out. And I like the good, orderly direction that God provides. So, what, I just a little piece there are, that's kind of some of me I thought I'd share. So, but now that you came into your, how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I just turned 40 last week.
Oh, you're just a baby.
I feel like a baby. I don't feel 40.
Good for you. Good for you. You're 40. But you get to 40 and you find that you're a little wiser than you used to be. And I'm 56. I got 16 years on it, but I don't look it. So I feel very happy about that. So, God was good as far as that was concerned. He looks like he gave you some good genes too. You look pretty good too.
Very sweet. It might be the Zoom filter.
I don't use any filters whatsoever on my Zoom.
I don't know how. I'm not great with technology. I don't know what it's doing.
You look fine. What you see is what you get with me. This is what people see on my podcast. This is what people see on everything I do. And I'm not here to give a show. If people don't like it, they can go someplace else. There's plenty of content out there.
I completely agree.
So now comes the time for you to be able to describe your business. Take 2 or 3 minutes to describe your business and what you do and how you help folks.
So it's been a very interesting. I was actually a kindergarten teacher for 20 years, and about a year ago, with COVID and everything, here on Phuket Island, we were basically wiped out. All the tourists left, all of the long-term people left, and so the school, private school, we lost. I went from 18 kids in my class to 3 kids, so it was, the whole early childhood center was just decimated. There was no one left, and so we very quickly lost a lot. A lot of the teachers quickly lost their jobs, especially ones that were new to the school. So I had just gotten there. I was a new teacher, but I was already working on sobriety coaching. I'd wanted to help women, take that next step as well, and so I was trying to get out of the teaching already. But sobriety coaching wasn't really working for me. I don't know what kind of blocks there were around that. I know there were a lot of blocks around it. But once I got this, we were let go. So before contract ended, so we got a bit of a payout. And so I was able to invest in myself in a way that I wouldn't have done without that payout. So I was able to take part in a course for energy healing. And lo and behold, that opened up a whole new world. I found out I was a channel, and that I could use these healing techniques I learned from my teacher to help people process things from their entire life, from their childhood. I was able to really identify what their blocks were, and just by using simple scanning techniques and working with the subconscious mind and helping people release those memories, without having to really live through it, and just doing it in a gentle, loving way, and then giving them techniques to help them process those events, to have more abundance, to have better relationships, to building their career, building their dream life, because a lot of people don't even think it's a possibility. But once they've released a lot of those blocks, as we both did, then they open themselves up to those possibilities. And I've had people completely shift careers after just a few sessions, because they realize, oh, that's not my life purpose. Oh, this is my life purpose. Okay. And then, we work through that as well. So it's been a really interesting journey. I didn't know that was in the cards, but it's been an interesting year, helping people, release those beliefs, release those emotions, and we hang on so tight to those memories, and they're also stored in our energetic body, and and they can cause some damage. They can cause physical damage. They can cause these kinds of habits that we build, and once they're released, things just become a lot easier. And so that's kind of been what I've been helping people with.
Okay, if you could give 3 takeaways for our audience from this, what would they be?
The first one, I think, would be it's coming back to who you are and taking a breath. I was in go, go, go mode my whole life, and I never stopped to really just take a breath. And once I've started doing that, now when I notice myself picking up speed and picking up pace, and things happen, I'll drop things, or I won't be paying attention and things will go a little wrong. I'm like, oh, take a breath, reconnect. That's been something that's really been very helpful. And the other thing is really trying to let go of some of those things that happened to us in our past, because they're not serving us. We built up these walls to protect us, and they might have worked for a while, but they're keeping us from really being our true self. So if we can really take that step, and it is definitely a bold step, courageous, bold step to, make those changes. But the life on the other side of that is really quite beautiful. That was only 2. the other one.
I think you could think of one more.
Yes. It's really coming from the heart. I think a lot of our issues are when we get stuck in our head. And the simple act of just taking that just that simple act, if you're noticing that you're in your head, you're noticing you're in your thoughts, and there's that whirlwind, and it won't stop, that negative, berating inner critic that's going wild and unchecked, is when we just kind of pull it in. You can actually take your hand and just like physically pull your hand down to your heart, and coming from your heart. I think a lot of big problems, small problems, all come from this inner critic that's going on in our mind. And until we can retrain that to be more, loving and supportive, which we can do, it's when we come from our heart and we really feel into our heart space, we make completely different decisions.
Thank you for coming to Claire's Delight for Life. It's about life. I hope you enjoyed our podcast as much as I did, and I hope you have a great day. I'd love to let you know about a new book coming out, and it's a great help for those who, and including you, to deal with life. It's called Overcoming Depression, Anxiety, PTSD, and Stress. Who couldn't use a book like this? And it's a great program. And the book and audio are going to be made available on Audible and Amazon. We also have we are on all the social platforms, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, and TikTok, and just about anything else you can think of. With all that being said, we also have some other wonderful books that you can get on Amazon and Audible and on our website too, which is declaresdelightforlife.com. Again, that's declaresdelightforlife.com. And those books are Clutter to Declutter. And another one is 28 Days to Declutter Your Mind. The other one is Secrets to Declutter Your Mind Now. These were written with lots of love and experience, these books, to really help you on your journey in life, because I know, having gone through so much in my life, these are written from the heart to see that you too can succeed despite your situations. And I just want you guys to know that we do have a 180-day guarantee that if any of these don't work for you, you can just email us or at support@declaresdelightforlife.com, and we will refund your money with no questions asked, because we believe that a no questions asked guarantee is the best way to have a great relationship with you. And with that said, you know what? I hope you enjoyed this episode of Declares Delight for Life. It's about life, sharing your experience, strength, and hope.